On a life-changing blind date, Billionaire discovered hidden paralysis. What exposed next is iron. Ryan sat in his swanky downtown penthouse, gazing out over the twinkling lights of Detroit. The city had risen from the ashes, and so had he. He had clawed his way up from the gritty streets, transforming into a self-made billionaire. Yet tonight, despite all his accomplishments, he was nervous. His sister had set him up on a blind date, and he felt the weight of his hidden struggles pressing down on him, his paralysis. The once lively man now felt trapped in a body that didn't move as it should. With a deep breath and a forced smile, he rolled into the vibrant chaos of the spring evening. The street was alive with the smell of taco trucks and fresh funnel cake. As people laughed and danced, Ryan felt the surge of hope echoing his surroundings. He wheeled himself up to the restaurant where Emma was waiting, her determined spirit evident even from a distance. A single mom of 3, she pursued dreams while serving tables and grinding in the kitchen. He admired her resilience. There was something effortlessly magnetic about her smile, like sunlight breaking through a cloudy day. "Hey, Ryan," she grinned, brushing back a strand of hair. "I'm so glad you could make it." They settled in, sharing stories amid bursts of laughter. It felt as if the world outside melted into nothing. Each word threaded a stronger bond, and for a moment, Ryan forgot he was hiding a part of himself that felt like a shadow looming over their budding connection. But as their plates clinked and the conversation flowed, a chance encounter shattered the ease they had created. A businessman nearby caught sight of Ryan, his eyes widening in recognition. "Isn't that Ryan Garcia, the billionaire?" Emma's face shifted. The warmth that had lingered between them turned cold. Questions flickered in her eyes, momentarily drowning out the joy they had shared. Ryan's heart raced as emotions swelled: betrayal, shame, and urge to hide. He felt bare, exposed for the first time. "Wait, what?" Emma stammered, grappling with her comprehension. "You're telling me you're a billionaire? Why didn't you say so?" The words dripped with disappointment, and Ryan felt that familiar tightness in his chest. He managed a weak smile, leveling with her. "Emma, I didn't want it to change anything. I'm still the same guy. Still you. If your wealth was on the table from the start, you could have been honest." Emma's tone cut deeper than he anticipated, revealing layers of grief within himself. As they debated the merits of meritocracy, Ryan's mind raced. He could reveal his paralysis, the truth he had guarded fiercely. Or he could keep wearing this mask of invincibility. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The air crackled with the tension of unspoken truths. As Emma's anger unraveled, Ryan felt his defenses crumbling. He had a choice to make, one that could change everything. Would he risk the perfection he had built to show his true self? His heart raced with uncertainty as he gazed into Emma's eyes, which were still simmering with a mix of confusion and disappointment. And in that moment, the weight of his secret seemed to pulse like a heartbeat between them. What would he choose? Would he finally let go of the fear that had shackled him for too long? Ryan's breath caught in his throat as he stared at Emma, a million thoughts racing through his mind. The bustling restaurant faded away, replaced by the weight of his reality. He had built a life filled with power and status, yet here he was vulnerable and afraid. He had spent years hiding his paralysis from the world, burying it under layers of success. Now, facing Emma, he wrestled with the choice that hung in the air. "I'm not just a billionaire, Emma," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. I have a condition. I'm physically limited. The expression on Emma's face shifted again as she processed the words. Confusion flickered momentarily, followed by a deepening empathy that softened her gaze. Ryan, she began, but he cut her off. Don't pity me, he urged, frustration creeping into his tone. It's complicated. I've built my entire identity around being something I'm not. I didn't want you to see me any differently. Emma's mouth opened slightly, and for a moment, Ryan thought she would respond with anger again. But then she drew a slow breath, the tension in her shoulders easing. You think because you're a billionaire I'd be interested in you for that? Her voice was steady now, reassuring. I liked you for who you are, the person I got to know tonight. He felt a flicker of hope, but it was clouded by the unease still trapped in his chest. It's not that simple. My life isn't normal. It's filled with challenges. The piercing honesty in Emma's eyes softened his defenses once more. We all have challenges, Ryan. You're not alone in this. A swell of emotion washed over him, both a relief and a surge of hope. This was the moment, the breaking of barriers, an opportunity to be real for once. I didn't know if I could trust you with that part of my life. I didn't want to scare you off. Emma shook her head, her demeanor shifting as she closed the distance. You shouldn't have to do this alone. Everybody deserves love and understanding, no matter what. Just because you're wealthy or have a disability doesn't define your worth. Ryan's heart raced. He had never heard someone speak about his struggles so openly. The way she articulated her thoughts resonated deep within him, igniting a desire to push past his fears. I want to let you in, Emma. I really do. A smile broke across her face, a mixture of relief and encouragement. Then let me in, Ryan. Show me who you really are. His defenses began to lower, the air between them warmer now, filled with possibility. He had a chance to let go of the facades he had built and embrace vulnerability for what felt like the first time in years, but just as he was about to share more, an unexpected interruption shattered the moment. A group of loud patrons entered the restaurant, laughter echoing through the space, drawing unwanted attention back towards him. Ryan felt himself retreating, the noise pulling him away from their intimate connection. Hey, look. It's Ryan Garcia. One of the newcomers exclaimed, and before he could compose himself, several eyes locked onto him. The same mix of recognition he felt before ignited around the table like a flash of lightning striking the night. His heart sank. The truth he was desperately trying to share was pushed into the background again. In that moment, he sensed fear creeping back like an old friend. Would he ever find the courage to truly show Emma who he was? Suddenly, a part of him longed to escape the impending confrontation, while another part hungered for connection. What did he want more, the acceptance he craved or the spotlight that came with his identity? As the laughter and whispers began to swirl around him, he looked back at Emma. Would this moment reveal strength or pull him under once more? He needed to decide. The next step could change everything. Would he emerge from this night transformed, or would the shadows of his past bind him once again? Ryan clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to shrink back into the shadows. The laughter from the group grew louder, emboldened by the sight of him. He felt the weight of the expectant stares, pinning him in place like a moth drawn to a flame, but simultaneously terrified of being burned. Ryan. One of them called out, waving exaggeratedly. We didn't know you were dining out here. Can we join you? Every ounce of him wanted to yell no. But he remained silent. The last thing he wanted was to be the center of attention, especially when everything felt so raw and unguarded. Emma sensed his discomfort and leaned in closely, her voice a soft murmur against a backdrop of revelry. Ignore them, she said, but Ryan could feel the energy tugging at him. Her gaze rested on him with a gentle firmness. Just focus on us for a minute. He nodded, but his mind raced. Part of him wanted to refocus on the conversation, the comforting warmth of her presence, while the other part, that cowardly voice, screamed at him to retreat, to cloak himself in the familiar guise of the billionaire. As the newcomers made their way to his table, Emma placed a hand over his, grounding him. It was a simple gesture, yet it sent a spark through his body. Suddenly, the nervous buzz faded into something slightly more manageable. "Hey, Ryan. We heard you were back in town." One of the men boomed, his voice dripping with a faux cheerfulness. "Yeah, just business stuff," Ryan replied carefully. His smile strained. The gang settled around the table, and he felt their energy shift the atmosphere. Their banter flew past him, but it hardly registered. He peeked over at Emma, managing a small, reassuring smile. Something in her eyes told him she would remain by his side, despite the noise surrounding them. "And who is this?" One of the women in the group piped up, eyes flicking between Emma and Ryan, curiosity alive in her voice. Ryan's heart raced. The question hung in the air, the connection was fragile at best, and he feared what would happen if he didn't handle it right. "This is Emma." He sounded breathless. "A friend." The word tasted foreign to him, unfamiliar in his mouth. A friend. That felt too soft, too forgiving. But Emma lifted her chin, surprisingly unbothered by the intrusion. "Nice to meet you all," she said warmly, not missing a beat. "Wow. Emma. Is that short for something? A real name, maybe?" One of the guys quipped, elbowing another. Ryan winced. He knew where this was heading, the invasive scrutiny that would come next. But Emma held her ground, exuding confidence. "It's just Emma," she said simply. "Just Emma. Not a princess or something." The guy laughed, but it seemed flat compared to Emma's calm demeanor. In that moment, Ryan realized something crucial: he wasn't in this alone. Emma had a grace about her that made him feel stronger. But his heart continued to flutter. As he glanced around the table at the old faces, something struck him. While they cheered and applauded the version of him they created, Emma celebrated the truth, the one that terrified him most. The disparity lay like a chasm between these two worlds, and Ryan had to decide on which side to stand. With every laugh that resonated from the table, Ryan swallowed hard. Should he retreat back into his sheltered existence? The thought of turning away from Emma now felt unbearable. The question swirled in his mind as the evening continued. What if this was a chance for him to unveil the truth to Emma, to finally let someone in? Could he share everything, the limping truth of his paralysis, without losing her? As the laughter continued around him and their conversations morphed into a meaningless hum, he huddled internally. What took precedent, the safety of his self-crafted armor or the possibility of genuine connection? Emma's warmth melted some of the ice within him, but would it be enough to keep him afloat? He felt a flicker of determination kindling deep within, the kind that begged for expression, for risk. "Emma," he began, leaning closer, suddenly aware that the crowd faded into the background, leaving just the two of them. "I think it's time I told you the whole story." Just as he was about to reveal it all, Ryan's phone buzzed, a jarring interruption that crept into the sacred space they shared. He froze, anxiety spiking. What if it was another reminder of his life that he tried so hard to escape? He looked into Emma's eyes, searching for reassurance. Could he bear the weight of the truth now, or would it all slip through his fingers before he even managed to grasp it? The moment hung in the air, breathless and fragile, as the world outside kept turning. Ryan's heart raced as he pulled his phone from his pocket, the bright screen illuminating the troubled expression on his face. Emma's hand lingered on his, a tether to a calming presence that somehow felt like home amidst the chaos. The message flashed, "We need to talk. Now." It was from his business partner, Mark. Panic clawed at Ryan's chest. This wasn't just a casual note, this was a demand. He found himself torn, battling between the weight of expectation and the fragile connection he felt with Emma. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked, her brow furrowed in concern. She could sense the shift in him, the way his fingers trembled around his phone. Ryan hesitated, caught between the urge to share his entire truth with her and the reality crashing in from his professional life. "It's just work," he finally said, trying to muster the lightness in his tone. But Emma wasn't fooled. "Ryan, you don't have to hide from me. If there is something going on, I can handle it." He swallowed hard, her unwavering gaze piercing through his defenses. For a moment, the noise of his friends faded into the background. He imagined a world where he could lay it all bare, where vulnerability was met with understanding instead of judgment. Maybe he started but stopped short. The thought of revealing his paralysis, of stripping away the facade he had worn like armor, felt utterly terrifying. "Maybe you what?" Emma pressed gently, leaning closer, her voice a soothing balm over his frayed nerves. The laughter and chatter around the table surged forward again, a reminder of why he had kept his truth hidden for so long. He was meant to be the successful billionaire, flawless and untouchable. But what if that facade was crumbling? What if the truth, once set free, unleashed not just acceptance, but fear? "Ryan," she said, breaking his reverie. "You don't have to pretend with me. You can be yourself." His heart thudded painfully against his ribs. "I want to be," he whispered, the admission slipping from his lips like a confession. Her expression softened, and an understanding passed between them, something deeper than mere friendship. "Then let me in," she urged softly. "Whatever it is, I can face it with you." As he pondered her words, the edges of what he had kept hidden rumbled inside him, a burgeoning urge to finally break free from the chains of isolation. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, another buzz pierced the air. Another message. By the time he sifted through the noise in his mind, the moment slipped away again. "Sorry, Ryan cursed under his breath, frustration boiling just below the surface. He glanced at the message, annoyance rising, but Emma squeezed his hand, silently pulling him back into the moment. "Let it go. Focus on us. Your phone can wait." The sincerity in her voice ignited a flicker of hope, maybe sharing would bring them closer. But before he could gather his thoughts to speak, one of the friends, a guy from the other side of the table, blurted something out. "Hey, Ryan, when is the wedding? You're getting old." Laughter erupted and Ryan felt his face flush. The moment of truth lost in the currents of casual banter. "Doubt it's on the horizon," he replied quickly, trying to deflect, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The walls of his carefully constructed castle were slumping again, and he felt pulled in every direction. He cast a quick glance back at Emma, who was observing him closely, the warmth in her gaze still reassuring. As Ryan's phone buzzed again, marking another distraction from the truth he desperately wanted to share, he realized something important, that this was a test of bravery. Could he reveal himself fully? Be raw and real? Just then, Mark's name flashed across the screen again. Ryan's mind raced. Could he ignore it and stay in this vulnerable space with Emma, or would he dive back into the world that had shaped his fears? The sights and sounds around them dulled, but the battle within him grew louder. He took a breath, finally steadying himself. "Look, Emma," he said slowly, the weight of unspoken words hovering dangerously close. "There is something I really need to tell you about my life." But as the group shifted, another loud laugh broke the conversation. In that moment, a sense of dread crept back in. Could he truly take the plunge? The spark of determination kindled in him, but the encroaching anxiety clawed at his resolve. What would she think? The question lingered like an uninvited guest, reminding him of all he risked. Could this be the moment that changed everything, for better or worse? Ryan felt trapped on the edge between two worlds, the pull of his past life snares holding tightly. But what truth awaited him if he stepped into the light? In the silence that ensued, an internal battle raged on, and Ryan's heart beat a wild rhythm. Would he step forward into the unknown, or would fear lock him away once more? The night awaited an answer, heavy with questions and a promise yet to be revealed. Ryan felt the weight of Emma's gaze on him, pulling him in. The laughter around the table faded into a distant hum. It was as if they were cocooned in a private world, where the truth danced just out of reach. "Ryan, please." Emma's voice was calm yet insistent. "Tell me. I want to be here with you." His heart raced, a palpable beat echoing in his ears. Somewhere in the back of his mind, Mark's message buzzed insistently, a reminder of his reality. But Emma's unwavering support wrapped around him like a warm blanket, urging him to find his voice. I've been hiding something," he began, the words stumbling out like hesitant footsteps on a dark path. "Something significant about my life, something I've struggled with for too long." Her expression shifted, the concern in her eyes sharpening. "What is it, Ryan? You can trust me." He paused, weighing his next words carefully. The effort felt monumental, as if he was about to scale a great wall. "It's not just about work. It's about me, about who I really am beneath the surface." The tension at the table shifted, with curious glances darting in his direction. Ryan could feel the collective uncertainty around him, the air thick with expectation. Suddenly, it all felt too exposed. "Take your time," Emma encouraged softly, but he could see worry flickering in her eyes. "Okay," he said, drawing in a shaky breath. "The truth is, I've had some setbacks in my life." The words tumbled out, spilling like a secret long hidden. "I deal with something that has haunted me for years. I have a condition. It's a difficult one to explain." "What kind of condition?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "My life isn't as perfect as it seems," he tried to reassure her while his heart pounded. "I have paralysis in my limbs. It's been a struggle to get through each day. I'm not just the guy with the nice suit and the shiny lifestyle. I have days filled with frustration, sadness, and fear." The confession hung between them like a storm cloud, heavy and charged. Emma's eyes widened, the understanding dawning like the first ray of sunlight after a long night. "Ryan," she squeezed his hand tighter, an anchor amidst the chaos. "I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me?" He felt the weight of her question pierce through his defenses. "Because I thought if I buried it deep enough, it wouldn't affect my life. I didn't want you to see me differently." Emma's gaze softened, her voice gentle yet firm. "Hiding only keeps you trapped. You're more than your struggles. You're brave for facing it alone, but you don't have to do it alone anymore," she said, her eyes bright with sincerity. A rush of emotion hit him, one he hadn't anticipated. It felt vulnerable but liberating at once. "I want to believe that," Ryan admitted, tears threatening to blur his vision. "It's just I've always been seen as this successful businessman. It's hard to shake the fear that revealing this will change how people see me." Emma leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just know that I see you, Ryan. The real you. Not the image or the titles. Just you, and I'm still here." In that moment, her words carved a path through his fear. Maybe sharing this secret wouldn't lead to judgment but to connection. Yet, despite feeling lighter, a sliver of doubt crept back in. What if I lose everything because I let down this facade? His voice trembled, uncertainty still clawing at his heart. She smiled softly, and there was a strength in that smile. "If you lose them, then they weren't meant to be in your life anyway. The people who truly matter will stay, and they'll love you more for your honesty." He wanted to believe that. More than anything, he longed for that kind of acceptance. The laughter and muted conversations played in his periphery again, but this time, a flicker of hope ignited within him. "Thank you, Emma. I really mean it," he said earnestly. But before she could respond, another message buzzed urgently from his phone. The screen lit up with Mark's name again, this time an ominous sense of urgency framing the text. "Ryan, you need to call me. We have a crisis." Suddenly, the moment hung in balance again, with the world competing for his attention. He could sense Emma's concern, but he felt torn. Would this crisis drag him away into the depths of business drama again, or could he find a way to step forward, even as things threatened to spiral? Steeling himself, he glanced at Emma, a mix of determination and fear swirling in his heart. "I'll have to deal with this," he said, but uncertainty lingered, leaving him questioning everything about the fragile line between his worlds. Would he slide back into the battle once more, or could he stand firm in this newfound understanding? As he reached for his phone, the familiar sense of dread gripped him yet again. What awaited him on the other side of that call? With his stomach twisting, Ryan pressed the button to answer. What awaited him might just change everything he had worked so hard to protect. "Ryan, where have you been?" Mark's voice crackled through the speaker, tight and filled with urgency. It felt like a cold splash of water over Ryan's earlier warmth. He could almost feel the tension radiating from the phone, tightening the knot in his stomach. I'm busy, Mark. Can this wait?" Ryan tried to maintain a steady tone, but the unease was creeping back in. "No, it cannot wait. We have a huge problem with the deal we were working on. You need to come to the office immediately." There was a pause, a hitch of impatience surfacing. "This is a disaster in the making. I need a moment." As the words slipped out, Ryan felt Emma's gaze on him again. It was a reminder, a tether pulling him toward what he had just started to embrace. "All due respect, Ryan, but a moment isn't what we have. This could mean millions of dollars down the drain, reputation too," Mark pressed. "You promised you'd be there for meetings, especially with investors coming in." Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, envisioning the sleek office he had built from the ground up, the endless hours spent ensuring everything appeared perfect. Could he just walk away? "You don't understand," he murmured, more to himself than to Mark. "It's not just about business anymore. Look, you can wallow in whatever issues you have later. Right now, we need you. This is a team, Ryan." Mark's voice was sharp, but it was tinged with a hint of concern, something Ryan hadn't expected. A cold wave of frustration surged through Ryan. "This is my life, Mark. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. You keep asking for my all, but I don't know if I can keep giving it." "Ryan, you're right, maybe I don't understand," Mark responded, his tone softening. "But a crisis is a crisis. Can't you at least give me an hour? The board is depending on you." Emma leaned in closer, placing her hand on his arm, a grounding presence. "You don't have to face this alone," she whispered, a gentle reminder of the honesty they had just shared. "You have people who care. Will they still be there if you pull away now? Or can you show them who you really are?" The weight of her words settled in him. Could he reveal his struggles to Mark and the others? Would they understand? "All right. I'll be there," he finally relented, his heart heavy. "But after this, can we talk? I need to sort some things out." "Great. See you in 30. Mark hung up, the finality of the disconnect reverberating in Ryan's mind. He glanced at Emma, who was watching him intently. "Hey," she said softly. "You did good. You need to remember you're more than just a title or a job." Ryan felt a flicker of defiance bloom inside him. "I'll show them," he said, but uncertainty still hung in his heart. "I'll show them who I am." As they stood up, he noticed the remaining laughter at the table waning, friends casting curious looks at him. Each gaze felt pressure-laden. Ryan wondered if they were sensing the shift, the transformation he was grappling with. "Do you want me to come with you?" Emma offered, and he could see her eagerness to support him, to stand beside him against all the chaos waiting outside. "We both know I need to do this myself," he replied, a blend of appreciation and resolve tightening his chest. "But knowing you're here, it helps." They shared a moment of silence, the noise around them fading into a dull roar. As he took a deep breath, Ryan felt a surge of purpose. Maybe his truths were loud enough to disrupt the facade he had built, and maybe it was time to stop being afraid of the fall. "Let us get through this, Ryan," he murmured to himself as they walked toward the exit. With each step, the fear battling within him was met by a determined hope. Maybe business wouldn't swallow him whole. Maybe he was ready to step forward, ready to break these walls down even if he didn't know exactly how. As they reached the doorway, a frantic message popped up on Ryan's phone, only intensifying the urgency he had been feeling. "Ryan, we need to talk about your hesitations. Things are unraveling quicker than expected." A lump grew in his throat. What if this was the moment that turned everything? What if this crisis was the very thing that forced him to choose his past or his future, his fears or his freedom? Feeling the weight of uncertainty crashing around him again, Ryan paused, uncertainty piling on his shoulders. Could he overcome this, too? With a trembling hand, he responded to the message, but would it lead him back into the shadows of his past, or could this be the turning point that would finally set him free? Ryan stepped into the bustling office, the familiar scent of fresh coffee and polished furniture instantly enveloping him. The atmosphere buzzed like a swarm of bees, filled with the frantic sound of ringing phones and hurried footsteps. The chatter, usually so ignorable, suddenly felt like a cacophony, drowning out the thoughts swirling in his mind. Mark rushed toward him, his face a mix of panic and determination. "You made it!" he exclaimed, a hint of relief evident in his voice. "We've got a real mess on our hands." Ryan nodded, trying to match Mark's energy as his heart pounded against his ribs. "What is the situation?" "There is a major investor who is having second thoughts. He has pulled back his funding. We need to convince him to stay on board." Mark's eyes darted around the office, like he was searching for a way to salvage the situation. "But first, we need to understand what triggered this. Can you handle the meeting, or do you need a moment?" The irony of the question struck Ryan. He had just claimed a moment for himself and yet found himself right back on the same treadmill of chaos. But he couldn't let his uncertainty show. "No, I can do this," he said, forcing the confidence through the cracks in his facade. As they walked into the boardroom, Ryan felt the collective gaze of the team resting on him. Their faces reflected a spectrum of emotions: anxiety, hope, resignation. It was almost too much to bear. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that vulnerability could become his strength if he let it. The meeting commenced, everyone sitting tensely around the ultra-modern conference table. Ryan cleared his throat, feeling as if the weight of their expectations was pressing down on him. "I understand that we're dealing with a delicate situation," he began, trying to maintain eye contact with his colleagues. "But I believe this can be handled if we approach it with transparency." Mark nodded, and the board members exchanged quick glances, urging Ryan to continue. "Let us be honest with the investor. If he is feeling uncertain, we need to understand why. And if there are concerns about our direction or mission, we need to address those directly." With each word spoken, Ryan felt an unexpected wave of empowerment surge through him. Maybe this wasn't just a crisis, maybe it was an opportunity. He was tired of hiding behind a polished persona, unable to express what truly mattered. But just as he started to formulate clearer thoughts, a sudden knock on the door interrupted him. A secretary entered, breathless. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's urgent." She glanced at Ryan. "The investor is here, and he wants to speak directly with you." The eyes of the board members widened, and Ryan's heart raced. This was it, the moment he had been dreading, yet it was also a chance to break from the chains that had held him back. "I'll speak with him," he said firmly, though his stomach churned with nerves. Stepping out of the room, he caught a glimpse of Emma through the glass walls, her supportive smile urging him on. Taking a moment to steady himself, Ryan entered the hallway, where the investor waited, flanked by two imposing figures. "Mr. Investor's name," Ryan said, extending a hand, his voice slightly trembling. "Thank you for coming." The investor didn't reply right away, staring at Ryan with an intensity that felt almost intimidating. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I don't appreciate surprises, Ryan. I'm here to ask you why I should continue investing in a company where its CEO seems distracted." Ryan felt the heat of embarrassment wash over him, mixed with the urgency of the situation. "I understand your concerns, truly. I've been facing some personal challenges lately, but I want to assure you that my commitment to this company has not wavered." The investor narrowed his eyes, studying Ryan. "Then prove it. Show me why I should believe in you." A surge of defiance ignited within Ryan. He had an opportunity not just to save a deal, but to reclaim his identity. "I can do that," he said, conviction flooding his voice. "Not just for you, but for everyone in that room and for myself." The investor raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "All right, Ryan. I want to hear your plans. And I want to see who you really are." With those words, a flicker of hope sparked within Ryan. There was still a long road ahead, but he was ready to face it. The fear that once threatened to consume him felt smaller now, diminished by this moment of clarity. As he took a deep breath, preparing to roll out his blueprints and reveal his vision, the stakes shifted. Would he be able to rise above his fears and prove his worth? The future loomed ahead of him, brighter and more uncertain than ever. Yet, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. What truths would unfold once he dared to be himself in front of not just the investor but everyone who had doubted him? He stepped further into the fray, ready to break down the barriers of his past. But as the door closed behind him, a lingering thought crept back in. Could the real challenge be more about embracing vulnerability than just sealing a deal? Ryan stood just outside the boardroom, his palms sweaty against the cold metal of the doorknob. The stakes were higher than he had ever faced. Facing the team was one thing, facing the investor with their future hanging in the balance was another beast entirely. Thoughts raced through his mind, but he forced himself to focus. This was his moment. Taking a deep breath, he entered the boardroom again, his heart thundering in his chest. The atmosphere was electric, a palpable tension hanging in the air. Emma's encouraging smile flickered in his periphery, giving him the strength he needed. "All right," Ryan began, trying to keep his voice steady. "Transparency and connection are crucial. To prove my commitment, I need to share something important with you all." He paused, noticing the curious glances around the room. He could feel Mark's anxious energy next to him but pushed forward. "I'm not just here as the CEO. I'm here as someone who understands what it takes to rebuild trust and create a vision that matters." The investor sat, folding his arms in a contemplative manner. "Go on, it's easy to get caught up in numbers and projections, but at the core, what matters is our people. The ones who believe in what we're doing. We have extraordinary talent in this room, and I want to highlight that. I'd like to showcase what my vision looks like through our projects, how we can innovate and think beyond our current limitations." He gathered courage, flipping open a folder of documents he had prepared, filled with plans, sketches, and ideas that had ignited his passion. "Let me show you our upcoming initiatives, a step towards not just growth, but making a real difference in our industry." As he displayed the first slide, detailing a project focus on sustainable practices, Ryan's excitement shone through. "This isn't just about saving money, it's about being part of a movement. We can set trends in our market and resonate with customers on a personal level." Some murmurs of interest spread across the room, and for the first time, Ryan saw the investor lean slightly forward, a glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. "You're talking about changing the game, Ryan. But how will you convince your team to follow this new direction?" With resolve, Ryan took a step closer, keeping eye contact with each member of the board, including the investor. "By investing in them first. By valuing their ideas, encouraging their growth, and setting the tone with my own vulnerability. I want this to be a collective vision, one that engages not just us but also our stakeholders." Mark gave him a quick nod of approval, the air around the table shifting as people began to see Ryan's determination and heart. The investor looked thoughtful, something shifting subtly in his expression. "You're saying you want to open up to them? Connect deeply?" "Yes," Ryan replied, allowing himself a smile of hope. "Real growth comes from authenticity. I want our team to feel secure expressing their thoughts, knowing their contributions matter. That is how we'll make this work, not just for the company, but for ourselves." A tense silence followed as the investor considered. Ryan's courage in this moment struck him, he could see it. Everything Ryan had struggled with, his hesitations and fears, proved to become the bedrock of a stronger leader. Just as Ryan felt a wave of reassurance rush through him, the investor broke into a faint smile. "Maybe you do deserve a second chance after all." A sense of relief flooded the room, but with it came a gasp from Emma, who had leaned in closer to hear every word. Then the investor added, "But let us address something first. What exactly have you been struggling with?" Ryan's heart dropped. The air felt thick. Then, Mark interjected, his eyebrows raised. Maybe this isn't the time, but Ryan found his voice. This was the moment. He had to be real. "I've struggled with balancing my personal life alongside being the company's face. I felt lost at times, which led to distractions." "Ryan," the investor said, narrowing his eyes, "if you can express this kind of honesty with your team, then you have my attention. But you'll need to be more than just vulnerable. This needs to convert into action." The weight of his challenge sank in, but Ryan felt emboldened, just as the door opened slightly to reveal a tense board member peeking in. Would it have been a mistake to say more? Or was it the truth that would bring them all together? In this critical moment, the lines began to blur between vulnerability and strength, leaving Ryan with an impending question: would his honesty pave the way for transformation or risk further alienation in a room filled with expectations? As everyone waited for him to continue, the reality of the moment enveloped him. What was he willing to sacrifice to regain their trust? Ryan took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. He could see the mixed expressions on his teammates' faces: curiosity, concern, and something he couldn't quite place, perhaps anticipation. It stirred a tight knot in his stomach. "Here's the thing," he went on, his voice steadier now, "I can't expect you to believe in this vision if I don't believe in myself. I've faced challenges that have made me question my worth, not just as a leader, but as a person. Sometimes, it felt easier to hide behind the success of our projects rather than confront my weaknesses. I know now that if I can confront my own issues, how can I guide this team through uncertainty?" The investor sat up straight, his interest undeniably piqued. Ryan glanced at Emma, who leaned forward, a sense of belief radiating from her. Mark, too, silently nodded, his expression sympathetic. "Relationships are everything," Ryan continued, his heart pounding but his resolve firm. I want to foster a culture where we can share our insecurities and lift each other up. It's not just about results on a spreadsheet, it's about how each of us feels as part of this team. I want to create a space where you don't have to wear a mask. Because when we can just be ourselves, that is when innovation happens. That is how we grow. The silence thickened, every pair of eyes on him. He could feel the energy shift, the tightness in the air morphing into something softer, more understanding. What you're proposing, the investor began slowly, is a risky gamble. But sometimes, the greatest opportunities come disguised as risks. Can your team truly embrace this change? Ryan glanced around the table, noticing small shifts in posture. A few people exchanged glances, their expressions warming up to the possibility. I believe they can, he said, confidence building within him. It starts with me being honest and open. I need to show them that it's okay to not have it all together all the time. I sparkled with encouragement. We can work on this together. Maybe we should hold workshops, team-building exercises focused on self-discovery and expressing our strengths and weaknesses. It could open doors to new collaboration. Exactly. It can't just be me leading this, Ryan added, meeting the investor's gaze directly. It needs to come from all of us. Each member of this team has a unique story, and sharing those could build a culture of trust. The investor leaned back, arms still folded but with a thoughtful expression. You have a compelling argument, Ryan. But words need to be backed by actions. If you're ready, I'd like to see a proposal outlining specific steps and measures for this paradigm shift. You have a week. Ryan swallowed hard but nodded. I'll make it happen. We'll transform as a team. A faint smile spread across the investor's face, a spark of hope igniting in the room. But as he felt a flicker of victory, a pang of anxiety twisted in his chest. The path ahead was rocky and uncertain, and the stakes were still brutally high. Would they truly rally behind this vision? Would embracing vulnerability really unite them, or would it expose cracks that were better left hidden? As Ryan stood there lost in thought, he realized the true test awaited him beyond the boardroom doors. The moment he stepped outside, he would need to reach out to his team, transform his words into actions, and ensure that the next week wouldn't just be about meeting a deadline but about legacy. Just then, a commotion outside the boardroom door caught his attention, snapping him out of his reverie. He turned, curious and anxious. Was it another board member? Or something else entirely? What had just crossed the threshold could change everything they had begun to build. Ryan lingered near the boardroom door, heart still racing from the intensity of the meeting. The cheers of the team echoed through the air, their enthusiasm blissfully naive to the struggles he was still facing. As he stepped outside, he found a crowd gathered around the hallway, a cacophony of whispers and laughter rising to meet him. What is happening? He asked, pushing through the throng of bodies. His gaze landed on Emma, a vibrant smile lighting up her face, illuminating the tension he had carried for far too long. She caught his eye and motioned for him to join her. You want to believe this? Ryan moved into the open space, suddenly aware of colors and energy swirling around him. The team had gathered to celebrate something, a moment of victory as they pieced together plans based on the very ideas he had just pitched. Look at this. Someone shouted, pointing down the hallway where an enormous banner hung overhead, emblazoned with the words New Initiatives, the future starts today. Ryan's breath caught. It was surreal seeing his ideas crystallize in such a public way. But what struck him deeper was the sight of his colleagues, whose eyes sparkled with hope and camaraderie. They were owning the vision he had just glimpsed in the investor's presence. What do you think? Emma tilted her head, her expression inviting him into the moment. It's amazing, he managed, his heart swelling amidst the beats of celebration. I didn't expect this. Neither did I, But it's what you sparked in there, she said, placing a soft hand on his back, guiding him forward. You opened up, Ryan. You showed them the truth. And look at the response. They moved closer to the growing crowd, laughter echoing off the walls as plans were tossed around. Ideas collided with enthusiasm, transforming the initial dread into a shared purpose. A sense of kinship stretched among them, aligning their ambitions and personal stories. Let us not forget the workshops, Emma continued, her voice filled with conviction. You're going to lead them this time. Ryan's heart fluttered. The thought of being a true leader, not just a title holder but a man that inspired and shared vulnerable truths with his team, sent a rush of warmth through him. Me? Led? He asked, surprised, still processing the shift that had occurred since he embraced his truth. Absolutely. Don't hide any longer. Just continue being who you are, she encouraged, her faith radiating into his spirits. They need to see more of the real you. The floodlight of realization sparkled behind his eyes. He didn't need to conceal his challenges, they could be bridges toward a deeper connection. You are right, he said, feeling a new strength grow within him. We should share our struggles, our victories. Maybe we could even hold a session where we share our own stories. Yes. Emma clapped her hands together, sharing excitement. That could really open doors. In that moment, every secluded fear began to fade into the background. He felt lighter, freer, ready to embark on this venture as a partner with his team rather than a distant CEO. Let us do it. Let us not just survive, but thrive. He declared, the energy pulsing around him amping up as cheers erupted. Together. The crowd whooped in response, a wave of unity surging through the hallway. The drumming of his heart resonated in sync with theirs. In that moment, Ryan was more than just a billionaire or a man facing paralysis. He was part of a beating collective heart, filled with purpose, laughter, and hope. As the celebration swelled around him, Ryan gazed at Emma, her smile brightening everything. Thank you for believing in me, he said, leaning towards her. You've brought me back to life in ways I never imagined. Emma's eyes twinkled, filled with sincerity. You're learning to believe in yourself, Ryan. That is the greatest gift you can give to those around you. And in that newfound space, surrounded by the promise of authenticity, Ryan understood that the real victory was not just in business, it was in connection. It was in embracing vulnerability, owning their pain, and learning to grow together. He walked towards the heart of the celebration, the laughter, the excitement, ready to dive into a new chapter filled with challenges and triumphs alike. As the evening wore on, his company would flourish under honest dialogue, and every step he took toward authenticity reminded him, life was more than just hurdles, it was about celebrating the powerful journey of becoming whole again. Hey! Ryan exclaimed, raising his voice over the music, let us make this a real movement. Everyone deserves to share their story, so why not start tonight? His colleagues cheered in approval, echoing the spirit that had blossomed in him. Today wasn't just a moment, it was a stunning start to a new era. And as laughter drowned out the noise of his past, Ryan felt whole, achieving acceptance not just for himself but for everyone brave enough to share their journey. It was time to embrace the truth, for this was just the beginning. Now, this is your moment to be part of something special. You need to subscribe now to never miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share in the joy. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this powerful message. Share it with at least 5 friends who need to see this today. This is the moment to show your support.